Alright, this video is going to be about some information you need to prepare for to pass your both commercial and instrument check rides. So I recommend make a little notepad like this, put a couple rings on there, and you can flip through them. And it goes through each phase of your check ride. So you kind of have like a checklist for different things you want to be doing to successfully pass your check ride. So I can kind of show you them one by one as I go through them. So this is the pre-flight. These are the things you do before you start your pre-flight. So
November 0 Hotel Charlie,
acronym for this is NW craft with a K. So N, NOTAMs. W, weight and balance and weather. K, known air traffic control delays. R, runway lengths. A, alternates available. F, fuel required. And T, takeoff and landing distances. So, sorry for that noise, but dealing with some crazy weather right now. As you can see, I'm getting bumped all over the place.
Center Frontier Flight 2231, 187, climb in 190. Frontier Flight 2231, climb in, maintain level 230.
Yeah, pre-flight, NW craft with a K. NOTAMs, weight and balance and weather, known air traffic control delays, runway length, alternates available, fuel required, takeoff and landing distances. Alright, then you're going to get to your pre-flight card. So the pre-flight, just make sure you have your physical checklist in hand while the examiner's watching you do your go-around. So that's the pre-flight card. Of course, once you get in the plane,
Number 916 Alpha Alpha LA Center, climb and maintain flight level 220. That's going to be a final for flow going to Van Nuys.
Level 220 for final, November 916
Alpha. Lower that.
Alpha.
I don't know if that's going to help. Alright, passenger briefing. You're going to definitely want to give the examiner a passenger briefing. This applies for all your flights as well, whether you have a passenger or whether you're doing a check ride with the examiner. But yeah, number one, seat belts, keep them on at all times. Door, show them how to open and close the door. Emergency exits, if any. I do have one on my baggage door back there. You show them how to use that. Your before emergency landing, you show them how to open the door, and you're going to tell them that you will hold the door open. Location of emergency equipment and the ELT. Traffic help, you're going to ask them to help you watch for traffic the entire flight. I usually tell my passengers to look from this little bar that's holding the compass right here. I tell them to look to the right of that, and I'll look to the left. So they look out from that bar to the right, look for traffic, I look to the left. Alright, and then of course sterile cockpit rules, so you keep a sterile cockpit during takeoff, taxi, takeoff, and landing. And up to 10,000 feet, if applicable. That's more for the airlines, but for GA people, you just say up till cruise, you'll be a sterile cockpit environment. Use of electronics, tell them if they're allowed to use their phone, not use their phone, whatever. Illness, if they get sick, tell them to tap you on the shoulder, show them where the vomit bags are and rags. If they do need to throw up, let them throw up, and then what the plan will be if that does happen. Life vests, show them where the life vests are if you have them. I keep a couple in the back over there. Ask them if it's their first time in a small plane. If they say yes, you're going to want to be a little bit more thorough about everything and answer any questions they might have before you go on a flight. And then ask them, of course, do they get nauseous usually, like on a boat, something like that? If so, if they get car sick, you might expect them to get sick in the plane, especially if it's a day like today where you're bouncing all over the place. So that's your pre-flight card. Or sorry, passenger brief card. Okay. This doesn't necessarily relate to the check ride itself, but your required equipment list for a VFR day. This is for VFR day flying. Check if your airplane has a minimum equipment list, MEL. That's the first thing you check. If your plane doesn't have one, no big deal. This is more for transport category aircraft, like airlines, stuff like that. So that's MEL. That's the first thing you check. KOEL, kinds of equipment list. So this depends on the type of flight, whether you need that or not. And then of course you got A tomato flames. You can find that on CFR 91.205. Sorry for that noise, it's really annoying. But I'm using autopilot today. Just the autopilot's trying to trim, or wants me to trim, because there's so much updraft and downdraft right now. But yeah, so 8 tomato flames, you can find that, like I said, 91.205, or in your POH. On mine is page 4.7, or chapter 4.7. So for 8 tomato flames, that's an acronym, right? 8 tomato flames. So altimeter, tach, oil pressure, manifold pressure. So these are gauges, by the way. Altimeter, tach, oil pressure gauge, manifold pressure gauge, airspeed indicator, temperature gauge. That's, of course, for liquid-cooled engines. Oil temperature, fuel gauges, landing gear position indicator. That could just be a light. Your anti-collision lights, your magnetic direction indicator, your ELT, and seat belts. You only need lights if your aircraft was manufactured before March 11, 1998. Plus, you also need, let me see here, CHT gauge if you have it. Sorry, just checking where I'm at here. I'm right next to a restricted area. Got to make sure I don't go near that. All right, CHT gauge, fuel pressure gauge, gear warning horn, stall warning switch and horn, master switch, battery and alternator, circuit breaker, and fuses. And I think you need the fuses at night, so that's something to keep in mind. Okay, now here's required equipment list for VFR nighttime flying. Required equipment list for VFR nighttime flying. So it's flaps, is the acronym for this one, flaps, plus all VFR day. Everything that's on the VFR day list you need, plus flaps, which is what I'm going to give you now, plus what's required in your POH. Alright, so flaps, fuses or circuit breakers. So yeah, you need that at night, fuses, circuit breakers. L, landing light. That's for hire only. I guess if you're not for hire, you don't need a landing light. Anti-collision lights. Position lights. We know what those are. Those are the ones on the wingtips. The red, the green, the white. And a source of power. You need a source of power. So that's required equipment for VFR nighttime flying. Okay, this is your pre-taxi checklist. Once again, this is another item, a card you would use for your check ride. Pre-taxi checklist. I would recommend use this card during your check ride. Doesn't matter what check ride it is, but if you have it on here, you're going to go through it. They can't fault you for using a checklist. Even for maneuvers, they cannot fault you for using a checklist. So first thing, once you start the engine, brake check. First thing, left brake, right brake. And if the passenger side has it, have them check too. So that's something to check. Then of course, physical checklist, have that in hand. Taxi briefing, perform a taxi briefing. I don't know why the plane is turning that much. Super windy up here. Alright. Runway lengths required and available. Hotspots. Are there any hotspots on the taxiway you need to go over? Who's the pilot in command? Designate who that is. And discuss positive exchange of flight controls. So if you need to exchange controls, discuss how you're going to do that. And that's one person says it, the other person confirms, then you double confirm. Alright, and of course, for a wind, you're going to have aileron position wind correction. So if you got the wind coming from behind you, yoke all the way forward. If you got the wind coming from your left, you're going to have your yoke away from the wind, like that kind of stuff. They can actually fail you for not having your correct yoke position and aileron correction in. So be careful with that. And of course, keep your hand on the throttle the entire flight. Once the engine is on, hand is always on the throttle. You can move it quickly to do other things, but a lot of examiners are going to want you to keep your hand on the throttle. All right. All right, run-up card. Use your checklist to do your run-up. After you run up, call for ground. And if you're at an uncontrolled field with no tower, you can do a 360 turn in the hold short area, right where you're going to enter the runway. So make sure, and you're going to look for traffic around the whole area, see if there's traffic. All right, pre-takeoff checklist card. All right, so you're going to perform the full pre-takeoff checklist. That's from the POH in the airplane. You're going to discuss the type of takeoff you're going to do. You're going to discuss your rotation speed. So I wrote rotate 65 to 75. Climb, you're going to climb a VX or VY. In my plane, that's 80 or 100. All right, stop annoying me. Oh, I can't hear air traffic control anymore. I better put that louder. All right, if you have a problem on takeoff,
LA Center, wingspan 6, 200.
you're going to discuss
Wingspan 6,
what you're going to do. You're going to discuss your best glide speed, and you're going to discuss where you're going to land. Likely it's going to be straight ahead. You're not going to try to make any turns, unless there's an open field off to your left or right or something like that. You're definitely not going to try to turn back to the airport unless you have plenty of altitude. Maybe you can discuss what that altitude is. All right. If you have a problem under 1,000 feet above ground level, discuss your 100 miles per hour glide speed or whatever that is, and turn no more than 90-degree turns. If you have a problem above 1,000 feet above the ground level, discuss your best glide speed and then discuss where you're going to land. All right, required equipment for IFR flight. If it's daytime, you need all VFR day items, which we just discussed. And if it's nighttime, you need all VFR nighttime items as well. So the acronym for this one is GRAB card. So everyone knows this one. This is required equipment for IFR flight. So once again, if it's daytime, you of course need all VFR day. If it's night, you need all VFR night. Plus you need what's on this list, which is GRAB card. That's an acronym.
All right, clear to descend via the rounders.
And if it's VFR daytime, you need all VFR night.
For wings 260.
Well, hold on. If it's nighttime, you need all VFR night items according to the POH as well as what I listed before. So once again, GRAB card. So the first one is GRAB G, generator or alternator. R, rate of turn indicator. A, altimeter. And it could be a pressure sensitive altimeter with a Colsman window.
Over 76 matter, Foxtrot.
And B is ball, which is the turn coordinator. C is clock. A is attitude indicator. R, radios. And D, directional gyro.
Indicated speed. Doing 300 for wings 260.
Alright, so that's GRAB card.
You need us faster or slower? Answer 260, yeah, I just need to slow you down for the metering there. You know what, maintain 260 knots until rounders and then comply with the published speed.
Alright, so
now 260 till rounders.
We're going to go for IFR items prior to the approach. Wire is the acronym for this one. Wire.
We're 7600 Foxtrot LA Center, welcome. Descend via the rounders to arrival, except to maintain 260 knots.
Alright, so wire.
2980.
This is IFR items required prior to your approach. Weather, instruments. So for instruments, you need your frequencies, your VOR frequency, and your course. Your radios, of course, tower, air traffic control, all that stuff. And then E for environment. So wire, weather, instruments, radios, environment. So you can start preparing all that stuff before you do the approach.
260 knots now and then comply with the published speed.
260 now for,
okay.
Then we'll comply with the approach speed 769 Fox.
Here's your items you need for your final approach for IFR. Power, power, gear, lights, 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 flaps, and time. And then of course after you do all that, landing checklist. So that's kind of like a little mantra Power, tower, gear, lights, flaps, and time. Landing checklist. Power, tower, gear, lights, flaps, time, landing checklist. So try to remember that. Power, power setting. Tower, talk to the tower. Put your gear down. Lights, gear light, landing lights, runway lights. Those are 3 lights that you need. Your flaps, set your flaps. Time. If you're doing a localizer or VOR approach, you're going to want to go over the amount of time between the waypoints and all that kind of stuff. Those are used for doing those approaches. And then landing checklist, of course. And there's 3 requirements for an IFR landing. Number 1, runway environment in sight. Number 2, you need to have a stable approach. And number 3, visibility minimums. You need to be better visibility than the mins. So yeah, those are the 3 required for IFR landing. Runway environment in sight, stable approach, visibility minimums. Alright, this is how to do a VOR approach for IFR. So I recommend to stay at 50 feet above your minimums during the approach, because you can't be more than 100 and you cannot go below, so you might as well be right in the middle.
2502. 2502 is fair wings 260, see you.
So yeah, at the initial approach fix, stay 50 feet above your minimums. At the Maltese cross, which is your final approach fix, you look at your DME and altitudes. Your minimum descent altitude, that's what you use for VOR approaches. You do not go below the minimum descent altitude. And you're at your miss approach point, which is time or DME, or a VOR flip, that's your miss approach point. That's when you're going to go missed, or you can decide to land at before that point if you want. In a large aircraft, you probably cannot. Small aircraft, maybe you can. So, VOR approach, you're going to come down, get your minimum descent altitude, then fly level to the miss approach point, then go miss. Your visibility must be more than the minimums to land for all types. That's loud and clear, 9406 Victor.
Reniner 0406 Victor, you should be on LA Center 132.5.
132.5, 9406 Victor.
Southwest 495, descend via the Renner.
Alright.
That's at 433, contact Joshua Coach 124.55.
2455, exact jet 433. So long.
Yep.
Center Dynasty 024, confirmed via Ziggy 7 arrival.
Not via, just descend and maintain flight level 200, Dynasty 024.
Descend maintain flight level 200, Dynasty 024.
Omega 10, descend and maintain flight level 200.
Okay, Omega 10 is out of 24 for 200.
Dynasty 024, you can expect the 250 knots at flavor though. Just anticipate the 250 knot restriction at flavor.
Copy, Dynasty 024.
Southwest 3875.
Alright, I'll just continue until they say something to me.
Southwest 3875,
Alright.
expedite descent, then maintain
Very
flight
bumpy
level
today.
200.
Expedite 200, Southwest 3875.
Center 9406 Victor, 8500.
Number 5 Kilo Hotel traffic 10 o'clock, 5 miles northeast or southeast bound, heavy DC 10, descending out of flight level 23 for 200.
Alright, so this is for a localizer approach. These are how you fly a localizer approach. So you're going to use DME or time. There's no glide slope on this. You're going to have a minimum descent altitude. Stay 50 feet above that if you want to play it safe.
024,
And then your miss approach point is going to be a DME or a time.
4000,
So just remember that.
250 knots, Ontario altimeter 2984.
Cross further at flight level 140 and 32509.
Alright, so to fly an ILS approach,
Dynasty 024.
Subjet 784, contact
that thing's
Joshua
annoying.
approach 124.55.
2455,
Alright.
Shell Jet 784, good day.
at your initial approach fix,
727
you're going to
flight level 210.
pull out your checklist.
727 Victor Bravo at late center, Roger. And reduce
And
your
at the glide slope
250
intercept,
knots for metering to Las Vegas.
you're no need to look at your DME numbers for an ILS approach.
I see that, no thanks. Disregard speed, thanks.
and then you're going to have a decision
Oh,
altitude. That's for
710 with
ILS approach.
200.
Okay, so yeah, I'm kind of all over the place right now with the radios.
710, Adelaide Center, roger.
But yeah, for an ILS approach, at your initial approach fix, you're going to get your landing checklist, and then you're going to
Number 916 Alpha Alpha, descend and maintain 17,000.
you're going to intercept the glide slope and localizer. There's no need to look at your DMEs. And then you're going to fly that
6 Alpha Alpha, reduce your
localizer and glide slope down to a decision altitude.
250 knots,
Alright.
November 916 Alpha Alpha.
So here's some commercial maneuver items. Center 9406 Victor, 8,500.
Number 9406 Victor, contact Joshua approach, please 124.55.
2455, 06 Victor. Joshua approach, 9406 Victor, 8,500.
November 9406 Victor, Joshua approach, Palmdale altimeter 2986.
Liberty 8 Fox Tower, transition approved as requested. Fox altimeter 298.
2986, 9406 Victor.
06 Victor, I'll say altitude climbing to.
We're staying at 8,500, but ton of turbulence right now, so we're getting bounced around.
Roger, just advise if you are going to be changing altitude.
Thank you.
Pitch at 433, contact SoCal approach on 120.4.
120.4, it's that jet 433.
Alright. Okay, so this is our
approach. Good afternoon, SMP19, level 12,000 with information Lima request.
So here is a commercial maneuver check ride maneuver card. This is for your short field takeoff. So short field takeoff, full brakes, use all the runway. Go as far back as you can on that runway.
SMP19,
go to full power,
with information
release,
Lima request localizer.
set your mixture if you're at a high altitude airport or high density altitude. Get max power, release, and then rotate 5 knots before your normal rotate speed.
MP19,
so
roger.
Your normal rotate speed is 72, minus 5 would be 67. Climb at VX with 10 degrees of flaps, depending on your plane. Once you have a positive rate, put your gear up 200 feet above ground level or clear the obstacle. A little at a time, reduce flaps. 300 feet above ground level, go flaps all the way up.
For the visual approach.
286, 9,000.
And then you brief. You brief.
Only 289, no delay in descent through 13,000 for traffic east 20 miles westbound.
Before the maneuver, brief the maneuver with the DP when we're clear of obstacle. So you're going to say when you're clear of the obstacle. Alright, so we'll skip to the next one. Soft field takeoff. Another card you could use on your check ride. I recommend have a card for each maneuver. Alright, so keep the plane moving. Full back pressure, full power. Release back pressure to keep nose just above ground. Stay in ground effect until
turn heading 315.
VX. Then climb to 200 feet AGL. Reduce flaps half, then 300 feet AGL. Reduce flaps all the way. Then climb VY. Then bring gear up as soon as you have a positive rate. So that's soft field takeoff. Power off 180. A lot of people have trouble with this one. I think it's easy, but I don't know why.
You're cleared direct.
Power off 180. Pull your pilot idle to beam your touchdown point. Stay clean as long as needed. Slow U-turn to final. Soon as touchdown point confirmed, gear down, flaps, touchdown within 200 feet of point. So for this one, I recommend do not, of course do a go-around if you have to, but don't put any flaps or anything down until you are guaranteed going to make that runway. So try to actually plan to land past the threshold just so you have a little bit more energy. If you have to, and you need to lose altitude on final,
289,
you can slip the plane. You go full flaps and slip the plane to reduce altitude very, very easily. Once you know you're going to make that touchdown point, make sure you touch your wheels down. So you don't want to have too much speed, but just practice this one. All right, steep spiral.
Cleared 9,000, Boeing 289.
Do your clearing turns. 7,000 feet, AGL plus or minus. Complete the maneuver above 1,500 feet AGL.
14,000 assigned 250 knots.
Pick your point on ground. Ideally, road intersection. Pick a point off the middle of the wing. Enter on the downwind. Power to idle. Pitch for best glide. Adjust bank angle for wind and equal radius around the point. You can use up to 60 degrees of bank if needed. You do 3 rotations. Maintain best glide plus or minus 10 knots. On each upwind, give engine a little power to avoid shock cooling. That's for your steep spiral. Soft field landing. Normal approach speed. Reduce your power to idle. A few seconds later than normal. Touchdown, main wheels. Hold nose wheel off the ground for as long as possible. Full aft back pressure until clear of runway. And use 1 or 2 notches of flaps. That's for your soft field landing. Steep turns. First step, clearing turns. Do your clean turns. Establish your max maneuvering speed. So VA, discuss what that is. And do this maneuver 2,000 feet above ground level or higher.
Boeing 289.
Set your heading or point. Set your heading bug on that point. Start your turn.
7,100.
I recommend trim back. Get that nose up a little bit. You do 50 degrees of bank plus or minus 5 degrees. After you get past the dot, oh yeah, so that's basically 50 degrees of bank. For my airplane, it's past the little dot, but less than the 60 degree marker. Trim back 2.5 degree turns. Yeah, okay, so for my plane, I trim back 2.5 turns on my trim wheel. That helps me maintain that altitude. So maintain plus or minus 100 feet, and airspeed plus or minus 10 knots. Your entry heading plus or minus 10 knots. Repeat in opposite direction. Alright, short field landing. On your downwind, pick a landing spot. Land as normal until 200
approach on 120.4.
20.40, Excel jet.
Until 200 feet above ground level. Slow 5 knots under normal short final speed by reducing power and pulling back
Roger, on your clear
slightly.
Approach runway
Do a forward slip.
Traffic.
If you have a right crosswind, ailerons into the wind and left rudder. So if you have a right crosswind, ailerons into the wind and left rudder and vice versa. Idle power during forward slip. Land at a point within 100 feet. That's a short field landing. So you basically want to be a little bit slow on that landing.
For sequencing, descend and maintain.
All right, Chandel.
Maintain 7,000.
Use your heading bug for 180 degree turn.
or negative.
So do a clearing turn. At least 2,000 feet above ground level. Start at your maneuvering speed, whatever that is for your plane. Bank 30 degrees in one direction. You add full power. Maintain 30 degrees of bank in one direction. Sorry, maintain 30 degrees of bank until 90 degrees. Once the turn is complete, continue adding pitch until at the 90 degree point. At the 90 degree point, reduce your bank, maintain your pitch, roll out 180 degrees. Get your stall warning horn, then level off and don't lose altitude. So basically, it's a max climb and or U-turn, and you don't lose altitude. You're basically climbing as much as humanly possible and doing a U-turn. That's all this is. So you roll at 180, get your stall warning, level off, don't lose altitude, wind on wing, every turn into the wind. So if you have a wing coming this way, turn into that wind. That's how you do Chandel. Alright, 8's on pylons. This one you got to calculate your pivotal altitude. I recommend doing that before your check ride even begins. So it's a ground reference maneuver. You're going to find 2 points on the ground about a half mile apart. You're going to find the wind direction. You're going to enter on a downwind. You're going to discuss your pivotal altitude, whatever that is. It's going to be your ground speed squared divided by 11.3 knots. So you're going to...
Boeing. Disregard, Boeing.
Alright, you're going to enter the maneuver below your maneuvering speed. And if your point moves ahead that you're following, push forward. If it moves back, you pull back. That's all you do. And you depart on the downwind. And keep a good radius for your points. That'll make the maneuver easier, so you're not fighting so much. And I have another note for 8's on pylons. Clearing turns, of course. You want to enter on a downwind, so the wind is coming behind you. Determine your pivotal altitude by flying directly downwind. You get your ground speed squared divided by 11.3. So that gives you your pivotal altitude, and you're going to pick 2 points half mile apart.
Momentarily, I have a lot of IFR aircraft I'm working with at the moment.
A lot of people have trouble with this maneuver, but this is what it looks like. Yep, got that one. Okay, lazy eights. Do your clearing turns, and then 2,000 feet above ground level, you're going to enter at maneuvering speed. Don't touch your power setting during the maneuver. You're going to find a 90-degree point off your wing. You're going to slight bank 5 degrees and pitch 5 degrees. Low bank.
Weather's unavailable at Alpha Valley Airport.
And then you're going to slowly pitch up to 30 degrees. And then you're going to pitch max.
15, gust 21, visibility 10, skies clear. You can report established on the second approach.
Yeah, you're going to slowly pitch up to 30 degrees maximum, and then when the nose slices through the horizon, and at level pitch at this point, let the nose drop no more than...
Descend and maintain.
You're going to let the nose drop no more than 10 degrees below the horizon, and slowly go wings level. You're going to roll out on 180 degree heading, plus 10 knots, plus or minus 10 knots, plus or minus 100 feet of entry altitude.
Runway 17 approach.
Alright, clear direct scat.
Yeah, so for this one, your max 45 degree point is where you have a max pitch up attitude. Yeah. So, deep spiral, I think we already discussed that. You start at a 4,000 degree minimum altitude above ground level, 5,000 is better. And you're going to do 3 rotations. I'm going to go ahead and swap my fuel tank to the left. Okay. Alright.
approach, wingspan 6, 12,700.
Alright, you're going to do 3 rotations minimum, complete the maneuver by 1,500 feet above ground level. You're going to enter on a downwind, you're going to pick a point. A 4-way intersection is usually pretty good. You're going to power to idle, pitch for your best glide speed, and up to a 60 degree bank on this maneuver. Keep the same distance from the point. That's all I got. So this is basically a card system I use to pass my check rides. And I passed all my check rides first time. So definitely keep that in mind.
And aircraft calling Joshua Sagan.
Go to 30 with the 8,000.
So, yeah, I've been through
039 Whiskey Joshua approach.
Been through a lot of check rides in the aviation industry, and happy to help you guys pass your check rides, obtain your aviation dreams, careers, whatever it might be. Been flying since 2017, have a ton of experience, over 1,700 hours now. I've owned 5 airplanes at this point. And definitely happy to help you guys with the consultation. Feel free to message me, and I'll definitely respond to you and go from there. All right, guys.